Hey friends, thanks for joining me, Jim Baroud, to hear a few insights from leaders who represent our innovation ecosystem. Today's discussion is with Ela Jaworski, the co-founder and CEO of XN Health, Laate Olukatun, co-founder and chief product and experience design officer at InnerStill, and Justin Kosmides, co-founder and CEO of Vela Bikes. This conversation, first of all, is two-part, right? We're going to highlight three great entrepreneurs and their products and services, and they're attached or related accelerators that they're, involved with, because there's so much fascinating stuff going on in this region, and it's important to highlight that. So, without further ado, Ela, tell us about yourself, and then about HAX a little bit, and then we'll get into a conversation back and forth, and we'll take questions. But I wanted to start with you just to give some background on your really fascinating entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, awesome. It's great to be doing things in person, and I appreciate the invite to be here. So yeah, my name is Ela Jaworski. I'm the co-founder and CEO of a early stage medical device company called XN Health. And we are trying to help mechanically ventilated patients wean from the ventilator faster by treating diaphragmatic atrophy. I started this company about a year, almost 2 years now, actually. We're originally from Texas, from the Texas Medical Center in Houston. I was a biodesign founder, and so this was a one-year fellowship where entrepreneurs got a salary, which was fantastic, to find an unmet clinical need, come up with a solution, and then start a company. And so we were, in the midst of it in Houston. I got to go through the ORs and rotate through all these hospital systems. It was quite a challenge because it was 2021, right at the end of the pandemic. So it was difficult compared to other biodesign years, but we managed to find unmet clinical needs. And I ended up sticking with this one because my co-founder presented it to me, and it was such a big problem at the time and so important. And I have a semi-personal experience with it because my previous co-founder of another company that I started was on a ventilator for 2 weeks. He was very young and told me about how traumatic that experience was, and I never want anybody to have to go through that ever again. So yeah, I have a PhD in biochemistry from Texas Medical Branch, and that's where I started my other company, ClickSeq, which is a next generation sequencing technology. It's still actually functional. My co-founder runs it most of the time, and I just provide support at this point. So that's a little bit about me.
Mind blown.
That was a lot, I know, I'm sorry.
And so, first of all, that program, we should have that copy here, Judith, whatever that program is in Texas. And so we'll come back to the accelerator you're related to, but why don't we skip to, let's see, go all the way to Justin, I don't know if you can top that.
No, definitely
background.
not. Nowhere near as smart, nowhere near as innovative. So I'm Justin Kosmides, co-founder and CEO of Vela Bikes. My co-founder's down in sunny, beautiful Sao Paulo, Brazil, where the brand was started and where we still have our R&D and engineering, both hardware and software. And I fell in love with e-bikes back in the early days, 2012, 2013, 2014, really finding it both in New York and even in Los Angeles, where I was living, to be the best way to get around the cities, really avoid the traffic, but also all the other headaches of it. So really this freedom that I was experiencing while I was in banking for 10 years. Met Victor, my co-founder, at a wedding where we spent all weekend long talking about e-bikes, which we definitely annoyed the hell out of both of our partners, you can imagine. And we hatched this plan to really bring this brand from a boutique, beautiful kind of smaller brand in Brazil and in South America, and bring it to the United States. That was about a year before the pandemic hit, and we had this entire retail and everything ready to go, and lo and behold, supply chains got messed up for us, and we had to pivot, like all businesses seem to do a couple times, and we pivoted and split into direct-to-consumer and started scaling up production, and then as it relates to hardware, accelerators, got into a hardware accelerator and software accelerator actually in Texas, Houston and Austin, Soft Tech, and their specialization was Internet of Things, IoT. Each one of our bikes have a 4G SIM card in them, and they had been building the fleet management for Rivian, Yamaha motorcycles, their electric fleets, a number of others, and so we really relied on them to kind of bring our software to the next level. And they're one of our largest investors and helping us. And we are deep in production, scaling, and growing right now.
Great. Yeah, that's a great story. The wedding crasher. And then Sao Paulo. Now, why would it be Rio? Rio sounds so much sexier.
Yeah, Rio is definitely, the Copacabana, Rio is definitely, everyone picture that while we go out in finally cold weather outside. It was an incredible market, and it's an incredible market to R&D and test and kind of prototype. He had fallen in love with early, extremely expensive e-bikes in Europe and wanted to bring the technology back to South America, but something that could be serviced and maintained in and around in Sao Paulo, where he was born and raised.
Got it. And I didn't realize the Texas connection.
Yeah, that was interesting.
And I went to A&M, Texas A&M, for grad school, so there's actually three. You must have some Texas connection somehow.
I've gone through Texas.
You've gone
So like,
you flew over.
like 3 hours, like 3 days of driving?
That's right. Just the very top.
Okay.
Got it. All right, go ahead, Laate.
All right, my name is Laate Olukatun, and I am the Chief Product Officer of InnerStill, which is a med tech startup where our first product is focused on vagus nerve stimulation. So actually, I have the prototype, so it's a little smaller than that. So this is the prototype of the device. The way it focuses, or the way it works, is it actually focuses on the vagus nerve, which is the longest nerve in your body. Actually, I'm going to make certain I did get a nod right over there. So it is the longest nerve in your body, and it really is focused on that mind-body connection. So what does it treat, and what can you treat by stimulating it? Basically everything. We're focusing on a wellness device, and we're really specifically right at this moment in time focused on anxiety and depression, but I can tell you that it treats a lot of different things. With that being said, we have a range of partners. One of our partners is NextFab. I used to actually be the director of marketing for NextFab, so I knew that area very well. NextFab is a makerspace in Philadelphia with an accelerator, actually a venture arm. And we have been working with the engineering side of NextFab in particular to make certain that everything that we're doing with our other engineering partners is up to snuff, fantastic, is going to do no harm, and is only going to do good. And the product really works. We've seen really incredible results. In fact, we have a range of products in the portfolio that are changing people's lives on a daily basis, and I can get into that.
Yeah, let's double click on that right now. It's the NextFab. Explain to them, I think it might be one of the older ones in the region, or maybe in the country, right? And talk about what that means, how it's evolved, your experience there.
Yeah, sure. So NextFab really started at a really small scale, about 3,000 square feet. It was a collection of basically just 3D printers, laser cutters. It's like a gym for innovators, so anybody can join, get access to these tools that are really, really expensive. I actually joined as a member because I was developing a product that I actually pitched right here years ago. In fact, Jim and I met that day with these guys. So it's amazing. This group, it's fun to go from being the audience to being here to actually, Jim, we haven't mentioned this, but Jim sits on our board. I tapped him for the board, which has been really great because he opens doors left and right. And the NextFab community is about 2,000 people. They're all members and have access to these different locations. And you can basically go from not knowing what 3D printing is to doing advanced things. It's really incredible.
Great. And well, tell us who's behind NextFab.
Yeah.
Can you tell us that?
Well,
I think you can.
So there's a rich dude that's behind it. There's actually a really incredible person named Dr. Evan Malone, who is a force for good. He went through the University of Pennsylvania for his undergrad, did a physics undergrad. He ended up doing a PhD in mechanical engineering out of Cornell University, focused on early tech for 3D printing, and basically wanted to do better things for the world. So created these places to help others.
Great. Okay, well, I'm going to go with you, Justin, because you can talk about soft tech and then Newlab where you are now. So talk to us about that, and we'll end with.
Yeah. So I did mention Newlab. Soft tech we really leaned on from an accelerator standpoint for both capital and assistance with IoT software side of things. Hardware has really been Newlab. Newlab is 80,000 square foot former shipbuilding facility in the Navy Yard in Brooklyn, in between Dumbo and Williamsburg. Awesome facility. They, it's a little over 1,600 members there in Brooklyn, about 100 startups need to apply to get in. But the same kind of I love that playground for startups. I was excited to join, and actually some of our advisors, former head of hardware at Peloton, a couple guys at Lime, everything, they were like, if you want to be in hardware and you're in New York City, you got to be at Newlab, you need to be around this community. And so applied, joined, got in, and it's been incredible. I mean, obviously all the engineers and everyone else on my team way more excited about having everything from 3D printers, laser cutters, CNC machines.
Waterjet.
Yeah. And then they're opening in January 1st. Actually, I don't think it's public, but it's close enough. They're opening their Detroit location with the backing of Ford and Google in a space 3 times as big. Most of it's focused on mobility. I was just up there yesterday. So they're going to be doing a lot of great stuff. They have even crazier machinery. Again, I'll have to ask all my engineers exactly all the stuff they do, but they've been an incredible resource, from funding to really networking to, you name it, in terms of helping us go from maybe not 0 to 1, but maybe like 0.5 to 2. Has really been a big one for us to kind of lean on, and an incredible community there.
That's awesome. And that's member based, or that's all application?
All application based.
Yeah, that's
fantastic.
Yeah. And that's the same for SOSV and
SOSV.
Yeah, in Newark. Oh, sorry.
So can I ask you a question? When you are accepted, do you have to then pay on a fee-for-use basis of the equipment, or do you pay like once you're in, you can use whatever you want for as much as you want?
It is a combination depending on the lab and the facility and everything. We pay to have office space there. I mean, no joke, we closed, became official members, which was harder than getting into Soho and House and some social clubs out there. It was way too hard. But once you're in, then you can use a lot of the facilities, and then we started actually just by getting in, raising capital just by having that. But the facilities, it really depends. Some of the stuff is more expensive to use. Other is just included within membership.
And that's an important distinction. Funding was not part of the package.
No equity, nothing, no funding part of. We're tapping them now. We've tapped them a little bit before. They're starting a full fund. They're actually out raising now. They provide funding where they really just pull in angels and everything as a syndicate. So they syndicate, and one line item on your cap table. Which is good.
Got it. Okay, Ella.
Yeah.
Who's up to date on HAX and SOSV?
Yeah, so we are part of the HAX portfolio. HAX is one of the verticals that SOSV invests in. So they are the second largest hard tech investment firm in the world. And so HAX is their hard tech vertical. We got investment from them about a year ago. This does come with capital investment equity, but we get use of their space, their engineering teams while we're part of the program. So that's why we were attracted to HAX specifically. I'm not a solo founder, but only full-time person, and so I needed a lot of engineering support, and they provide that. We have access to electrical engineering, mechanical engineering teams, industrial design teams, marketing teams, all that stuff, and they work with us on a weekly basis, getting actual hard projects done, not just advising. And then they do offer the networking, advising, all that other components. So we moved here a year ago to Newark. They just opened a new facility in downtown Newark. We were the first company to move in, and so it's been really exciting to see the office get more full with new companies and build out. But we have makerspace, CNC machines, laser cutters, 3D printers. They were investment in Formlabs, so we get a bunch of those in the office. We just got like 5 more, literally bought like pallets of Formlabs printers, so that's been really fun. And yeah, it's just a really fun place to be.
Explain what Formlabs printers are for folks who are.
So these are 3D printers. They use a liquid resin type technology with UV hardening system. So it's fun to watch actually. The platform like grows out of the liquid and then your product comes out rather than extrusion based 3D printed types things. Is this a Formlabs?
Yeah, this is the equivalent.
Okay.
So the level of resolution that you get and why it's really important for medtech especially is that you're talking about something that's oftentimes going to interact or interface with the human body. That's got to be really precise. So the 3D printers that oftentimes you hear about, like MakerBot, Ultimaker, those don't have the level of resolution that you really need for, especially something that's going to be in the human body. So you really want to be very precise. And it's interesting talking with both of you about it. So we do things a little bit more decentralized, which is to say that sometimes when we're going to get something 3D printed, we have to wait for a vendor, sometimes across the country, sometimes in the middle of the country, to send something back. Trust me, I really want that file as soon as it's done to be in my hands so I can iterate again, because I know it's wrong, but I want to find out how it's wrong. And to have that delay is never gratifying. So SOSV, what's happening there, what you guys are doing, that's fantastic. Even NextFab, that's really essential. And hardware is hard. It's really, hard is right. It's really, really challenging to make something that's physical because you have the constraints of human interface, you have the constraints of the physics, you have the constraints of, quite frankly, like your assumptions were wrong around what was going to be done. And all of that, the accelerator is really key to that. It speeds up that process. Yes, there's the financial side, but it's really the iterations. That's what we're really talking about, is how quickly can you get through and fail and figure it out and improve on it.
I can't tell you how many times we started a print like at 9 p.m. and then washed it and then looked. As soon as it's coming out of the printer, you're like, that's wrong.
Yeah.
Like you look at it for like 100 hours on the computer and you're like, there's no way. I've thought about literally everything. Yeah. And as it's being printed, you're like, and so you're like, it still has like 8 hours to go, but you're already back to the like CAD file and fixing it and like starting the next print because we have like 3 printers ready to go. So that's been really fun.
And it literally means that we move around the country for this, for the access, right? Yeah. I mean, when NextFab started, that was 2009. I heard about it in 2010. Quite frankly, so my best friend lived in Hawaii, and I was like, you know what, I want to just spend time in Hawaii. And then all of a sudden I heard about this place in Philly, and I was like, guess I'm going to Philly. And that's what I did. I did for years just as a member because I needed access. And I really believe in product. Physical things are really interesting. You can only do so much with digital solutions. I mean, you have digital parts to what you're making, but you can't have a digital bike, right? It can't be fully digital.
Can we also talk about the camaraderie with other people?
Yeah.
I think being physically co-located with other founders that have similar challenges to you is like so important. When you're struggling, or even the successes. There's somebody doing like a roofing robot in the space. When we hear the roofing robot going off, it's like a nail gun, literally a nail gun. Everybody's like, woo! And like there's like a wave of woos throughout the office. It was amazing because we're all like excited with each other's successes, and if it's tough, then like we support each other. And so I think that's actually what's really important. If you have some stupid challenge, like your other co-founder or other founders have solved it, and you just ask them and they have answers immediately. So I think the camaraderie is part of why I like being part of these types of accelerators and makerspaces and things like that.
Yeah, so I think it's crucial. I mean, it's to solve for the millions of things that are going to go wrong, that you're going to get hit with. You need to kind of pull together, and if it's sharing insurance brokers who are going to help you get this and get manufacturing figured out, or shipping, or this or that, or some sort of part or anything. I mean, it is that for us, especially the younger people on our team, the younger engineers, the younger people, all needed that, and they came to the senior leadership and was like, we need to get in front of like everyone else and do that, and helped us kind of all realize, yeah, actually this is a really good move to get everyone together, and then one step further around other people, in our case mobility, but also Light Phone, the guy, one of the founders of Light Phone sits behind me, and it's like, who would have ever known that our product would overlap, or we would share stuff, or really it's more commiserating over like massive issues and problems, but we're all going through it. So it's great to like have that. It makes things. I was deeply involved with another startup with a founder who had a lot of like very isolating, kind of like not wanting to break out to it. I've stayed in touch. I've tried to be a friend and everything, and my advice continuously is like, get better advisors, build better like community, surround yourself by these people, because it is literally taking us, a huge way in kind of helping to kind of support the business to the next level.
Yeah.
So.
I want to just focus in on HAX a little bit more, because people don't realize that there are other facilities around the world, and it's such a big deal that they've located in Newark, where they could have located anywhere else around the country or around the world, right?
So they spent like a year or two trying to find a spot for their new location, so.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
all the
I've been
benefits
begging the founder for years, but I'm sure that doesn't matter.
No,
But I mean, I think it's important that they know, how many other facilities, how big they are, the years of expertise, and the amount of funding poured into hardtech. I mean, it's number one, right? I mean, it's just by magnitude of so much that it makes a difference.
Yeah. I think there's 8 offices. I don't know, Carmelo, is that correct? I think it's about 8. There's definitely a big presence in China, Shenzhen, China, Taipei, Taiwan, San Francisco. Their biotech office is a big presence in San Francisco. HAX now in Newark. IndieBio also there is New York, Ireland. So they have presence all over the world. India, so we have access and availability to go up to any office by being in the SOSV community. So that's really, great for us. They're like huge, you're talking about manufacturing, huge manufacturing presence. Anything we want, there's a team over there. I just send them like the Alibaba thing, or I just say, this is what I want. They source it for us, they ship it for us, like everything's taken care of on that end. So that's been incredibly valuable. We've gotten so many really inexpensive parts. And very quickly. And then, they are the second largest investor. They have $2 billion of investment under management. So it's, very large. So the network is huge. The founder community is huge. They've been around for, 15 years, 20 years, something like that. But yeah, Sean has been great. He's another one of these very altruistic, rich people that have just like incredible vision for changing the world.
Absolutely. So we can get into questions pretty soon, but I mean, this has been a really good way to sort of educate folks on your products and services, but also the value of accelerators and more specifically hardtech accelerators, because again, it's relatively new in this region.
It is. If you don't mind, I wanted to just mention the mentor you were mentioning this mentorship. So NextFab, one of the member emeritus is Garrett Brown, a name you might not know. I didn't know it before I heard what he had invented, which was the Steadicam. But it wasn't just the Steadicam; it was the AirCam, the DiveCam. It's unbelievable how many different devices the man has made. He started as a sales guy, and he came up with the Steadicam concept this is the story he tells, in a motel. He literally told his wife that he needed to go off and think about an idea. He came back with the Steadicam idea, He had engineers map this thing out, but you can imagine this was done years and years ago, right? So it took a lot longer. But there were members of the community at NextFab that were actually on his team. And he was like, he wrote himself, he basically became a live action hero in his own life because he was always the guy that was holding the Steadicam. He wrote it into the contracts. So anytime you saw like Rocky running up the stairs, you know why Rocky ran up those stairs in Philadelphia? It's because it was in the demo reel of him following his girlfriend at the time up the stairs with the original Steadicam, which they sent out to the film industry. And so Sylvester Stallone saw that and said, "Where is that?" And that's how he ended up doing that run. And Indiana Jones going across that like rickety bridge, that was Garrett Brown right behind him holding the thing. It's just unbelievable. And so he really was this like action, I mean, he's kind of like a Tony Starkish kind of character who just wrote himself into his own story by inventing and finding ways. And so he, you know, we watched these stories, he would tell this story on stage at NextFab. And to hear that, it's like, well, why not? Why not be part of this movie? Why not be a part of this way of work?
Also think big, you know?
Yeah, I know.
I would have never thought to write myself into the contract, but that's so clever, you know? But that's one amazing way to put yourself in front of like famous people, you know, behind, whatever.
Just remember that for your bike.
Yeah.
Anytime it shows up in a movie,
You have to be the one
all photo
riding
shoots
it.
anywhere in the world.
I'll play a girl with a wig.
Yeah. Love it.
All right. Let's go right to questions. Any questions for us? Okay. Let's see. Richard first.
Yeah, oh, I didn't know there
Oh,
were
go ahead.
others. Do you, we came in late, so maybe I missed this part of it, but do you foresee a day when consumer products are customizable to the individual consumer based on any number of factors? Is that kind of the direction that we're going as opposed to mass producing items?
I think you're the one that like interfaces the best with it.
So the question was, is there a point in time where products for the masses are customized for the individual to a certain extent? I would say that that's actually already been happening. Nike for years started to explore that with customizable shoes, and they started at the lightest level. So there's personalization, and then there's customization, and then there's kind of the individual side of things. Now you can do that on a 3D printed scale. Like if you're talking about something that's physically 3D printed, it's possible you could do a scan of a person. That's actually being done in clothing, for instance. So you can do a scan of a person and actually get 3D knitted clothing made specifically for you. On the personalization side, Nike literally, this was early 2000s. They started with literally just color choices. You could change the color, right? And that was customization, but it's just personalized, the lightest. And so the farthest is almost like the equivalent of what Star Trek has, where you can go up to the machine and order any food imaginable. And that's on that spectrum of possibilities. So Dr. Evan Malone, with his 3D printing technologies early in the day, one of the filaments that he was actually using was batter and icing. And so he was actually allowing people to 3D print custom cakes as an example of that. So it's absolutely possible, and it's happening more and more, and you can see brands, and in fact, even at Brooklyn, you're seeing a lot of that, and a lot of other places too.
Yeah, I mean, we just moved manufacturing from China to Detroit, and one of the reasons why we did it, quality, but also shortening the both the lead time for us to be able to customize our bike, not on a one-off basis. That gets a little too much. And honestly, I think people think they know exactly what they want, and they want access to all 5,000 colors that we can do powder coating on our bikes. But I think people want to do, imagine your coolest, your favorite celebrity is riding around on a white Vespa. Justin Bieber just did a collab with Vespa. And so, to have that option for X number and this option and be able to control it in terms of production, I think is more doable. I think true customization on a one-off basis is just not worth it for a lot. For us as a consumer goods product and everything that we kind of touch, not on a one-off basis.
No, would you do it if the price was right?
Oh yeah, we actually talked about what that cost would
Yeah.
be if there was an option at the bottom.
Yeah.
Guitars are really an interesting example. So Fender has like their overseas options for X price point, and then they're US made. We could be following a similar trajectory, but then they have that X factor of like, I want to customize my own for XYZ. I'll fly you to Detroit and you can pick out the color and watch the whole thing be made if you pay me enough.
and you say that jokingly, but that might be
Oh
sort
yeah,
of
that
an
actually,
experiential
that is,
thing
yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
That actually, in all jokes aside, there's a great article of the founding of Shinola and being able to like see the factory and do that, and that's something that we really want as we're making this capital investment and time investment in terms of scaling production in the U.S. Really bringing people into it to see it, because it becomes so 95% of bikes, more actually, 97% of bikes are all imported, and we've been so detached from the biking, and in our case, electric biking is even smaller percentage of domestic made.
And I saw that play out with, I had a friend that had I have a friend that still has a photo booth company. So literally just photo booths for weddings. Obviously that went away during the pandemic, but for a period he was actually he would have these huge brands that say, we want it in our car. We have this specific car and we want a photo booth. And he would literally just say, it's 50 times the normal price. Yeah. So he'd spend a little extra time, customize it out, kit it out, and it's literally theirs. So it's doable for the right price, and it's very cool for the right price. It can be worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really depends on like ultimately also what the product is, right? In healthcare, we talk about personalized medicine, which is a big thing that's coming up. They'll take your genome, they'll sequence it, they'll figure out exactly what problem you're having, and then there's some like cancer treatments now too that they'll take your stem cells and modify them so that they become cancer-fighting cells. So there's a lot of, I think, personalization, customization going around in all the industries, right? I mean, like Apple, you can engrave on your iPad and stuff like that. Slingshot, I think, has like hundreds of different options. It's like an astronomical combination of slingshots. Like, I don't think there's two similar slingshots on the planet because of the sheer number of options that they have. So yeah, I think it's definitely the way that we're going. And if you're like have something that physically interacts with you and you have a 3D printer at home, who's to say you can't buy the fundamental technology, purchase the file, and then have the company over air print it to your device? Like, that's how I print stuff from my house to the lab, to the like stuff in the lab. So you don't physically have to be there to start the machines either. So I think all of this is in the realm of possibility.
Okay, next question right behind Rich.
Yeah, you talk about bringing in specialists from NextFab. Electrical engineers were mentioned. I assume there's mechanical engineers and other people who are able to do it. I'm kind of interested in the model that is in which they're provided. How do you engage them? Are they internal teams? Are they external teams that are previously contracted? How are things scheduled and prioritized, and how are they paid for?
Yeah, that's great.
Discounts and stuff.
I think we have two unique models here. So we're basically doing it a la carte at the moment. So it's funny, yes, NextFab has an accelerator, but we're actually paying NextFab right now for services rendered. And the advantage of that is that we're sorting out the product and some of the details as we go along. So we have this one electrical engineer who has largely run. It's actually kind of amazing how much he's done. He built the first PCB that fully worked based on the science. So we have an MD, PhD, yes, that was not a typo, who is one of the founders whose science is what is being translated into this device, with another founder whose brilliant therapy approach is also being translated into the device. So the key is to be true to the science first. And so a single engineer being able to do all of that, not just the electrical engineering, the boards, the physical harnesses, etc., the whole thing, that's a huge lift for anybody, and impossible, quite frankly, over time. And so bringing in other engineers, so we specifically brought in one electrical engineer and one mechanical engineer initially. I brought in another designer whom I've had the pleasure of working with for a long time. My background, sorry, I should have said, is user-centered design, which is a very holistic background to begin with. Actually, I got to work with Ford's former CEO, Jim Hackett, who helped with the whole mobility thing that you're now getting to be a part of. And he really looked very broadly at how to build teams, but also how to approach things. So we're taking that broad approach and saying, well, it's also the business model has to be sound. It's all these things. So we're doing all this ad hoc, but really trying to put it all together in order to ensure that it's working seamlessly. And so actually, the visibility that you're getting to this product. So this is the most that the world has seen of this in this room. You know, we have a few people that get to try it, but we're really pretty dark at this point in time. We're not trying to share it with the world, and as a result, we're kind of keeping all of that stuff pretty close, and hence our partners are pretty close. So we have other technologists that we work with to bring this all to market, including an app developer that's doing really interesting things on the survey side. So it's really a la carte at this point in time, which is sounds like very different.
Very different.
Yeah.
Yeah, the HAX model is they invest in the companies, so we get cash from them, and then we don't pay anything back.
Sounds awesome.
we pay equity back, but we're part of the community forever. They prioritize, they only have a finite number of engineering staff, so they prioritize the companies based on the first 6 months that they're within the program, because their whole, value is accelerating your development in your company. So that's why they put all the engineering effort in the beginning. We have been there for a year. We still have access. I still have weekly meetings with all the engineering teams. They just have deprioritized us compared to the new teams that are coming in. So I still have them on deck if I have any questions or anything like that. Their work product's a little bit slower than it used to be, but they also have connected us with other engineers that now we are paying for. So it was totally free for the first time, and they will still be free, but it's just a little bit slower. So it depends on if we need something immediately or not long term. And if there was we needed something for a show or something, they will reprioritize us based on milestones and deadlines. So they are, I think, our lifelong partners, so they want us to succeed, and they treat it like that. So
before we get to additional questions, why don't you each tell us where you're at in your life cycle, as far as fundraising, what's the status of the company? Justin?
Sure. We're in a unique situation since we pulled in the Brazilian entity in about 5 years worth of R&D and sales and revenue from that entity into the U.S. entity. As one of our advisors likes to say, you guys are the luckiest out there, since you spent almost no dollars on R&D. At Peloton, we had spent $8 million to get to where you guys are at, and you're already in market and 4,000 bikes on the road. So we're lucky in that regard. Plenty of revenue coming out of there. Revenue in the U.S. for about 2 years. We've raised about $1 million with pre-seed, angel, family, friends, and then we're going out to a full seed right now with a lead investor, and we're trying to close quickly. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we raised one pre-seed last year. We got it from SOSV, and we've been running on it for last year. We just opened up a seed round, so we're trying to raise $3 million to accelerate the rest of our product development. We are a medical device company, so we do have to go through clinical trials and FDA clearance before we can sell the product, which is a 5-year process. So we will be raising quite a few rounds after this as well. We are only in the preclinical stage so far, so we've done animal testing, we've proven that our prototypes work, but there's a lot of regulatory things that we have to do. We have to build, have a hard design freeze before we can do all the testing, because if you change something as small as the color of the device, you have to go back and make amendments, and so we have to finish product development. We can't make any more changes, and so that's why the R&D stage takes so long in a medical device company. So we're about a year and a half out from testing our product in a human.
So we're also a med tech company, but we did a slight pivot or slight different focus on we focused on the consumer side first. So we got an FDA exemption, which means that we can keep on iterating to our heart's delight on this product. We have about 5 or 6 products in the portfolio or in the pipeline that are actively being developed. Right now it's all friends and family rounds. We've raised, I think it's like $650K or something like that. And actually, Jim, you can probably say more about where we are in terms of so the key here is we wanted to get the product right, though. So even though we don't have to ever stop the development, the iterations, we wanted to make sure that the product was in exactly the right place so we could get it into, we were actually talking this earlier about, to clinicians, but actually what we really mean is into end users' experience. So we are already starting to use this product in Bucks County area and also in Sedona, Arizona. So we have our chief medical officer, she's based there. So we've been actually running sessions. The sessions are, I'm embarrassed to say I don't know what the price is right now, but it's 3 to 5 sessions to establish basically a really nice place for your body. So we've had people who have come in with some pretty serious bouts of depression. With another device that we're working on, we've also seen people kick some pretty terrible habits that they've had, and that could be opioids, etc. So usually that takes years, if ever, for you to get off of them, but we've had some really successful experiences where people have been able to get off of some pretty addictive drugs in as little as 6 weeks. Now on this device, that's not where we're focused. And this device is really, think of it as we are covering the spectrum from floundering to flourishing for those that are getting nervous, they get on stage. It doesn't matter if you're a professional performer or you're just feeling anxious or you're feeling depressed. This device, those 3 to 5 sessions can really change things. And what we've found on the flourishing side, so that's the flowering side. On the flourishing side, let's say you are one of the best athletes in the world and you're looking for that cutting edge. We've talked with people on the Olympic Committee. We've talked with a few professional golfers and tennis players around how this could give them that edge in performance. So that's where we are, and we're honestly like weeks away from being able to actually have these in a number of clinicians' hands for use with end users. From there, we're going to scale up in a few different ways, but start with the clinicians, and eventually it's going to be something you can just purchase and use in your own home.
Okay. Judith.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, I work with a number of the New Jersey universities. To what extent are any of you working with any of the universities in either New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and how might you be able to leverage that talent?
I am starting to, yes. So we moved to New Jersey because of all the programs that the state has to support new ventures. If you look at the NJEDA website, there's a ton of stuff. Angel credits, R&D credits, accelerator credits. So it's one of the big reasons why we came here. One of the programs we're working with is CSIT, which gives a grant money to work with any university in the state. So we are working with Rutgers, trying to establish that relationship now to do our preclinical animal testing. All the stuff we've been doing has been in Texas so far, which is great, we love them, but flying to Texas every month has been a little bit of a challenge, and having to pack and put our device in suitcases under the plane is like, and getting like TSA looking at our device like, why do you have this? And is this a bomb kind of thing? And having to explain that every time has been interesting. So we are building that relationship here, and being close is really nice.
That's awesome. We plan to, actually, a couple of the meetings I was having in Detroit yesterday, it was the state of Michigan and Detroit, and a lot of, you can imagine all the electrification of automobiles and all the kind of wave and development of that, riding the coattails of that and mobility. And so there's a lot on that we're starting to tap, but quite frankly have like been kind of catching up. And then in New York, not as much as we want to be. We have a warehouse, we have technicians, we've been training, incredible, like, you can imagine high school kids that take apart their Xboxes are my target, guys to like go in and build the electronics desk. So it's like, I don't need even college educated, I can get real crafty with the skills that are out there. So I've been told there's a lot out there, but quite frankly, I'm so busy with just like running the business and trying to get more bikes on the road and bikes fixed and everything else that will come. But definitely interested in tapping more going forward.
And if Ellen Ito, who is our CEO, was here, she would give you a long list of folks that we're trying to work with, and a few that we are presently working with. We actually just applied for a grant. Actually, you will speak to this again, more so than me. We just applied for a grant in New Jersey to focus on a specific population, which is it was maternal health, right? Yeah, maternal wellness. But also, we're working with UCF that's in Central Florida. There's this amazing town called Lake Nona, which is this crazy tech hub that you would have never heard of. It feels like it's straight out of a Bond film. It just kind of came out of nowhere. They have a whole bunch of things. Like they're aiming to be one of the first places that has a drone kind of taxi service. And yeah, it's really neat. And they have automated buses, and Deepak Chopra's there. It's just this really cool place. So they have a whole bunch of connections there. So there's the veterans, the biggest veterans hospitals there. So there are a bunch of folks that we're starting to connect with for IRBs. So while we have this, we don't need to do more medical studies for this specific device. We're always interested at the root of it. We still have MD, PhD, and a doctor who are both very interested in the science. And in fact, I'd say our whole team is. I'm probably, I don't want to say the least interested, but the least qualified on the science, but very interested in it. So we're eager to work with universities, colleges, et cetera, that are interested in this kind of work.
Thank you. Next question.
My name is Ravi. So can you talk a little bit about your experience in raising funds, like pitching to investors, and a little bit more on like that journey?
So why don't you give us, the question is about raising funds, obviously. You guys could talk for hours, I'm sure, and commiserate for hours. So maybe just a minute each on, on your experience.
I think the guys at Elephant Ventures, who are former Casper, Warby Parker, that whole group, said it best. They said, our hit ratio when we were raising money and going out there for hardware, and in particular consumer good, CPG hardware, is about 1 yes for every 800 no's, and I think that's pretty fair.
Yeah.
I think it's probably closer to 200-ish. That being said, it's incredible, but all of the people that I was getting pretty close with or going back and forth with, and then they were like, no, we're like shifting allocations or everything away towards like, the Web3, the crypto, the everything else.
Yeah.
I'm having a lot better reception of pitches and calls and conversations more recently, and I think it's because maybe valuations and everything else are coming down, and they like something that hardware, you can get to profitability, you can start selling those like Whoop or something else, and people will pay subscription service or something else. I mean, there's a lot of that of like, how quickly you can get to profitability, how quickly you can actually start making money, and quite frankly, I think that's a good thing for the entire market. So if you had asked me 6 months ago, I would have been even probably more negative, but I think it's, quite frankly, if you're talking to the right people and you're in the right room, as long as you have enough of those conversations, you'll get there.
Yeah, so our pre-seed was, SOSV was actually the first application I filled out when I was time to start raising. So no, I ended up doing like 7 or 8, like, because they were accelerators, so you just like fill out the application online. But they were actually the first one I did when I was like, okay, it's time to start raising money. So that worked out really well. This time it's not the same. We just opened our round a couple weeks ago, and it's been a struggle. I think getting introductions is the hardest part. I'm a relatively young founder, and my network isn't that strong, especially in like the med tech community. And so if you just like fill out the contact form on a VC's website, like it goes into the black hole, the email black hole. Like nobody's going to respond to you. So you need to get warm introductions. And so I personally don't have those connections, but I've been trying to connect on LinkedIn, using my SOSV network. And literally, if there's like any semblance of a mutual connection, I ask for warm introductions. I do a lot of pitch competitions and like getting up in front of as many people as I can, and hoping something will hit. So we just started. It's already been a struggle trying to get meetings in the first place, but hopefully we'll have something hit soon.
Second, the networking and tapping into. I mean, that is just absolutely crucial. I did On Deck, remember about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, On Deck, which is incredible online mostly community, but it's like any way you can possibly get a warm intro. You're right. I mean, if you're black, if you're throwing something into a dark hole, there's zero chance someone's getting back to you.
Yeah, but that's just partially time. I mean, you're young is if that's your worst mark against you, don't worry, that'll work out over time. And I'd say you just keep your head down, you keep on doing the work you are, but be visible. I've gotten a chance to be an intrapreneur. I've gotten a chance to be an entrepreneur. There are different pitches that you give in different circumstances, and I'd say it was a hell of a lot easier to do intrapreneurship, where it's just like, guys, can I do this thing? And they're like, yeah, here's the money, and then you just go. That's a lot easier, quite frankly, than starting something from scratch, especially at the very beginning. We heard this actually from an investor that came back again, or a potential investor, who wanted to find out how's it going. And it had been about a year since we had last talked with her. And we were giving her an update, and she said, yeah, the thing about technology, about physical products, is it's really, really challenging. And so the reality is that there's more interest as you get closer. So you having this thing right here that we just rode around outside is really compelling to the right audience, right? Investors are interested. It means that they're going to get less. That's the way. If there are any investors in here, and you think you're going to get a lot when this thing already exists and it's out there in the world, and he already has, you're going to get less. You're going to get less of the total investment. Now, something like ours, where it isn't out there in the world yet, there's potential to make more. But you have to calculate your risk, and that's the thing. It's not just about what we believe, because we as entrepreneurs believe the hell out of what we're doing, and we believe it's absolutely going to work. And there are days, of course, when we don't think that, but most days, God damn it, this is going to change the world. It doesn't matter if it's a bike, it doesn't matter if it's going in your body, it doesn't matter if it's going to be outside your body. We believe we're going to make a difference, and that's what you're actually investing in. And so you're kind of investing in the confidence side, but this isn't a con, right? This is real. And you just have to be along for that ride and trust that we are the right people that are going to take it all the way to the end, because we are the team that's going to do that. That's what you're really investing in. Yeah, you're investing in technology because you like the idea of the tech, but you really are investing in the people. And that's really hard, but really compelling at the same point in time.
I think that's why sometimes the cycles are so long, because they are investing in the people and you're building that relationship with the investor. Yeah. And I think that's where I'm going to do it again in the future, is build these relationships earlier. Yeah. I should have, and everybody's always said, oh, start networking and building relationships with investors. I was like, great, but I also have this tech I need to build. I need to hit these milestones, because that's what everybody asks me about when I meet them, right? So that's definitely an interesting challenge, but it is about personal relationships. These are like marriages you get into, contracts for like long-term legal things, right, with an investor, and they're going to be with you for the next 5, 10 years, however long, until you can get them that return. But you want somebody that you can trust and they can trust you. Mm-hmm.
So have you looked at Golden Seeds?
I did. I met with them last night, yes, actually. Oh. And I'm going to meet with them again probably next week. So
for other investors, Golden Seeds invests in businesses that have a female in a C-level position.
So,
can I make one other comment? The other thing that both of I'd say probably more so the medical companies should look at is the Bird Foundation, which funds projects between the U.S. and Israel. There's a lot of medical technology happening in Israel, so that might be opportunities for joint collaboration and getting into some market.
Thanks for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please like it, leave a review, and subscribe. See you soon.